Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my Christmas-themed review series, and um, and for this day of the 12 Days of Christmas, I'm going to be reviewing 8-Bit Christmas. This is a movie that recently came out in 2021. I think I only heard about it like a year or two ago, and all I really knew about um, was that it starred Neil Patrick Harris as the narrator of the story, and that it was basically about a Neil Patrick Harris as a kid trying to get a Nintendo Entertainment System, and by that I mean like a fictionalized version of himself. Like it wasn't a documentary. Sorry. So basically the story is like about a kid trying to get a Nintendo on Christmas, and his older self, who's played by Neil Patrick Harris. He narrates the story. So I kind of had a guess on basically the whole gist of this film, that it was basically going to be like very similar to the vein of like A Christmas Story, where in that movie the child Ralphie, he tries so hard to get like a Red Ryder BB gun, right? Whereas in this movie, the kid is trying to get a Nintendo game system. And throughout the movie, like there's a bunch of adults mainly telling him like, no, you shouldn't get it. Kind of similar to like the parents in A Christmas Story saying like, it'll shoot your eye out. Whereas in here, the adults are saying like video games will like rot your brain. Like it takes place in the 80s and 90s. So it was one of those things where like video games are evil and like they destroy like your minds and crap like that. But like it's not like a carbon copy of A Christmas Story. It still has like there's still like enough DNA that you can kind of see it like taking inspiration from A Christmas Story, like aside from the fact that obviously it's about a kid trying to get something for Christmas, but his parents are saying no because it's bad for him. There's also like a recurring joke about how like the kid has these like girly boots that's very similar to like to that like weird Easter bunny pajamas that Ralphie wore at the very end of the film, or like this one scene where the kids are trading these baseball cards, and on one of them, like on one of the trading cards, like a player is holding up a baseball bat, and it says the F word on one of them, but it's blotted out, kind of similar to the Christmas Story movie, where like Ralphie says fudge, but he didn't actually say fudge. Just little bits like that. It just to me in a way kind of pays tribute to A Christmas Story without like being like completely in your face about like, oh well, they did this in this movie, we're gonna do the exact same thing here. Like this movie is still very much its own, especially when it gets to the ending. And speaking of like the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of great 80s and 90s nostalgia there. Like being that the movie, I believe, takes place in Chicago, like there's quite a bit of stuff that has like the logos of the Chicago Blackhawks and the Chicago Bears on them. Which I'll be honest, like I'm not a huge fan of sports, but I do have some family members who are, and well, they like the Bears and Blackhawks. So there's that. And there's all and like even aside from A Christmas Story, like there's a lot of references to old like 80s films, like Die Hard. There's a whole sequence involving like walkie-talkies where one of the kids even says yippee-ki-yay. there's quite a few Star Wars references in there, and of course there's video game references such as Zelda. Aside, like moving away from like the whole nostalgia and everything in here, like the the cast I think is pretty good. Specifically, Neil Patrick Harris as the narrator. Um, I believe his name is Wesley or Winslow Fregley. Um, who, when I looked him up, I honestly thought that he played Greg in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. Turns out he wasn't. But either way, I think he does a great job portraying playing like a kid version of the narrator, Jake Doyle, I think his name is. But one of the actors who was in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Steve Zahn, who played the father in those movies, he plays the father in this film too, and I think he's great as playing like a father from the '80s, where he's kind of in some ways he's a bit of a hard ass, where he constantly wants Jake to like basically keep his retainer in his mouth at all times, but he also still very clearly like loves his kid. Even Jake's mom, I think, is pretty good, and his little bratty sister, where she's constantly kind of trying to get Jake in trouble, even though, like, towards halfway in the film, she does feel bad that he's unable to get like what he wants for Christmas. The little kids do great. There's not the other main kid characters that I can now think of at the moment. Like, there's this one like rich little shit named Timmy or whatever, where he gets all the cool stuff, and he gets this like power glove, which they find out doesn't work. Funny thing is, turns out it didn't work in real life. He The kid who played him was hilarious as being like that little rich douchebag that like everybody at school knew one. And then there's that one other kid named Connor, I think, who basically might as well be the Scut Farkus of this film, where he looked like he was held back a couple grades, and now he just bullies every other kid in the school. Going from the casting to like some of the technical stuff, I thought the music was really great and heartwarming, especially when it factors into like the final moments of the film. The lighting was okay. I mean, it was festive and cheery. I'll give it that. Like, it definitely gave like a Christmas theme to it. I can't really think of much else to talk about this film, so I'm gonna skip straight to the ending. So back when I said that Christmas Story, that this movie was basically inspired by A Christmas Story, but still like stands on its own. That kind of has to do with the ending, where like at the end of A Christmas Story, Ralphie gets the BB gun from his dad. Well, in this film, like Jake doesn't get the NES from his parents, but instead he gets this this light bright machine, which I remember getting that one Christmas, and I used to play with that a lot until I eventually grew bored of it. And then at the very end of the film, Jake finds out that his dad built him like a tree fort, and it's not until the end of the film that that Neil Patrick Harris basically explains to his daughter that like the story he kind of told her was like it was never about getting the game system. It was about like the memories. It was about the memories that came with him and his friends trying to get it, and like what his family got him instead, that like meant a lot to him. And honestly, like, up until that point, like, this film was like just really just a nostalgia trip, really, for like heartwarming 80s family films. And it wouldn't up until like the ending of it, I would have just written it off as just an average film. Until like that ending, that honestly I think made the movie better by quite a few notches. So to summarize, this film is I think this film is a really good like Christmas family flick. Um, I don't necessarily see it being like an instant classic, but I would still recommend it for families to watch. Like in addition to like the regular Christmas outings such as like Disney Santa Claus or A Christmas Story or How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Like definitely give this one a shot. Like it's free on HBO Max. Um, but other than that, like yeah, this film I thought this film was really good. Not a classic by any means, but still very well done. And that about wraps it up for this review, and I will see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Bye, everyone.